All right, here we go. Thanks everybody for joining us. Appreciate the patience. We do have a little bit of a tight window here. So just gonna ask everybody to keep the line moving as best we can. And we'll get to as many people as we can. When Donnie's done, Kim will be joining us on the Zoom call here on the same link. So we got some hands raised, so we'll go ahead and start with Jordan.
Thanks, Jason. Hey, Donnie, great to see you again. How have you been?
Good, Jordan. How are you? I see the beard. You got the beard working.
Yeah, I'm keeping it as long as I can. First off, with spring starting tomorrow and you guys coming off of the playoff run, do you anticipate a different atmosphere around the club knowing that you guys had the success last year and you're trying to prove that it wasn't just a one-year thing?
Yeah, I mean, we've still got a lot to prove. And obviously this division has stacked up. You know, the Braves really has been the team that's kind of had everybody's number. And now it seems like everybody's loading up. I think we will be more confident, you know, moving forward because of what happened last year. I think that was good for our players. But I don't think that we're going to come in overconfident. We know we got a lot to prove, and still need, you know, everybody that I've looked at, it seems like they're picking us either last or next to last. I think Christina was the only one to give us a 4 run there, which was, yeah, I see ya. So she gave us a 4 run, which was good. She probably knew she had to deal with us. So, but anyway, we got a lot to prove. So, but I do think, you know, the experience last year is really good for our team, right? It was good for our organization to accomplish that, even though it be in a small sample. Our pitching's still the same. It's going to be good, and it's probably going to be even better with more experience. I feel like we've did a nice job with our bullpen, so I'm looking forward to this season, but we've definitely got a lot to prove.
And then just one more quick thing. Clark isn't here. Joe's in here. So I kind of feel like I have to ask this. First availability of spring training, do you have an opening day starter?
I probably have a better idea this year than last, but I don't know if we should give that away yet. I got to save some kind of news for tomorrow.
Fair enough.
Nice try. Nice try, Jordan. Christina, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Don. I guess playing off of the predictions or whatnot, you know, all the teams are going to have in 2021 I guess, balance of what to do with the pitchers who had so few innings last year. You guys have the element. There's a lot of young and experienced guys. What's sort of been the talk of how to manage that in 2021? Is it maybe like a 6-man rotation or stagger guys out? What's sort of the game plan that you know of so far?
Yeah, we've had some discussions on kind of where we feel like their innings can go to. How do we get to that point is kind of another one. Do we go 6-man? Do we how do we get there? But the one thing that we've been able to do is talk about it, have some type of like area where we think those innings are, you know, should be. And then how do we get there is kind of the plan that we'll use all season long, right? Either it's not letting guys push through into the 8th or trying to go to the 9th. But we don't want to like come out and say, hey, we're going to do this. Right. We want our guys thinking that they're going to pitch the whole game. And maybe they're at a pitch count now and then that they can do that. But we'll definitely be keeping an eye on all of them. They are young. We have some young but experienced guys in that combo too. So we'll definitely be watching, just like basically every other team will be doing too.
Go ahead, Will.
Hey, Don, it's good to see you. You touching on what you said early on about last season, building off that, but it's a tough division. The word of this franchise tends to be progress, and last year you made great progress from a win-loss perspective, a winning record to make the playoffs. So when you balance progress and that, but development, how does it balance? Because most people say, okay, we'll make the playoffs again and have a winning record again.
Well, I think you look at it like we're building a club that we think has a chance to get themselves into the playoffs. And then move forward. Anytime you have pitching and you put our guys up there, and even they haven't gotten the credit they deserve. If you have that, you have an opportunity. I think when we say progress, we got to continue to develop. You know, we know we had some pitchers that came up and threw the ball pretty well. Our young, I think, position players, we had a little success, probably not the success we would have liked, but this spring should be really important for those guys, because usually when you get that little taste and you see what it's like in the big leagues, because you never really know until you actually get here how good this league is, right? In AAA or wherever you've been. So those are always good winners for guys. When they go to the winter, it's like, I need to work on this, this, and this. And this is what I have to deal with when I go back. So they're a lot more prepared now to deal with whatever we're going to have coming in their way now.
Jess Blaylock.
Hey, Donnie. Hope you.
Hello, Jessica.
Hey, I'm so excited. Baseball is almost back. Hey, you mentioned, obviously the rotation, bolstering the bullpen, pitching a huge strength and has been for a while now. What do you like about the lineup from top to bottom? I know you guys added a guy like Adam Duvall who's got some pop to his bat.
Yeah, I think we're getting to a point where we still know that the offense has to keep taking strides forward, right? Adam is a guy that we know has been the last few years, it kind of continues to get better and better. And we've seen it kind of firsthand from Atlanta last year. But he's a guy that puts power into our lineup. We're just counting on Brian Anderson getting better, a full season of Marte, Corey Dickerson, not only being more comfortable and knows where he's going to be, and a full season. Sometimes the 60 games are a little harder to judge. Aguiar and Coop both can hit. They've proved it. We'll see what happens at second. Miggy, I've learned not to put a ceiling on him because he just keeps getting better and keeps busting through it. And we're going to look back to Georgie. We think Georgie still is that guy that can be a guy for us. That's a guy that's the run producer, that's dangerous in your order, and can be a force.
I will stick in the family there with Kelly Sacco.
Hi, Donnie.
Kelly?
I'm going to go specifically on Jorge Alfaro. What are you looking from him this spring training, and how important of a spring is it for him?
Well, he's important to our club. He's a guy that tremendous, athletic ability. Last year seemed to struggle. I don't know if it was the COVID or what it was, but he's worked really hard this winter, and he's worked hard with Eddie Rodriguez, our catching coach. They've been having Zoom meetings with Mel, making sure that he understands our staff, and just working through the communication part of that. So we feel like he's going to take strides this year. And even though his numbers may not have looked at it offensively, we've seen some things that we liked towards the end of the year, better understanding of his game plan, strike zone, things like that. So we're looking forward to Georgie having a big year.
Josh Moser.
Hi, Skip. I'm Josh, new to town, new to the market. Was working last with the Brewers in Milwaukee. Two-part question. The first is, how do you manage the on-field work this spring training with COVID? And then the second question would be, what do you want the identity of this team to be?
Well, it's been a battle with all the restrictions and protocol. Just getting into camp is a battle. And then trying to have your meetings with players, with the whole team, it's trying to put that together. There's just been so many hurdles, but we're no different than any other club. So we'll be able to use our whole complex. We'll spread the place out, be individualized teaching. We'll use as much of the computer and stuff as we can down here with the Zooms and different kind of meetings. So that's kind of how we deal with all the protocol. We dealt with a little bit 2.0 last year, but with 75 guys, it's a little different. But we do have a lot more space as far as fields. The identity for our club is pretty simple. We want to be a club. Obviously, we hang our hat on our pitching. We feel like that's going to be our kind of thing. I want to be a club that's able to play fast. Derek's talked about it. We want more athletic guys. We want to play a pressure game where we have speed. And we think we're getting there, not quite there yet, but a club that plays aggressive and plays smart, and a game that people like, right? I think we're seeing that in baseball in general, that, people want action, and sometimes the rules and how you go about trying to win games doesn't always fit in with that, right? So we definitely want to be a team that can play with some speed. We want to run when it's there. And I think that's basically the identity that we've been trying to create over the last few years.
Okay, let's go to Ruthie.
Hey, Donnie. Derek was kind of joking with us on Monday, saying that his favorite part of spring training is when it's over, because the season's starting. Curious what your favorite part is and what you're most looking forward to, just to kick things off.
I always like the beginning of it because I think it's the optimism and the hope of so many teams and so many players looking forward to a new season. Probably my favorite part of spring is young guys. Being able to watch young players, how they react in camp, how they react in games, if they're back in camp for the second year or maybe the third, seeing that growth and where that's going. So that's no doubt my favorite part is just really watching the young guys and watching them grow.
Steve Wine.
Don, with you all have so many young guys with such high ceilings potentially in various stages of development. I'm wondering how many of these young players do you think have the potential to have a breakout season this year and be a very different player a year from now than we're looking at them as being right now?
I lost a lot of that. I don't know what.
Yeah, cut out of it. Go ahead, repeat that, Steve.
Am I back now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
With so many young players with high ceilings in various stages of development, I'm wondering how many of these players do you think have the potential to have a breakout season this year to the point where they'll be a very different player a year from now than the way we look at them right now?
Oh, I think a lot of them. I think we talked about so many guys that were at that AAA level or were going to be at that AAA level last year. Some of those guys end up in the big leagues that we weren't expecting to be in the big leagues. And that's what I talk about when guys get that taste. And I shouldn't say taste because that's just kind of like saying they got to the big leagues. I think when they get the experience of what it's like, you actually know what that pitching looks like on a daily basis and what it takes. And then you get to see some veteran guys, the way they work. Those guys a lot of times come back into camp the next year with a whole different mindset, right? So I definitely think the talent's there. A lot of those guys struggled last year. Spring will be interesting. The whole season will be interesting as far as who's where. But I think next year at this time, you're going to see a whole different group of guys.
Next, we'll go to Craig Mesh.
Hey, Donnie, it's good to see you again.
Craig, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I do have one question, but I want to double down real quick if you don't mind. Just something you said previously caught me a little bit. Is that realistic, a 6-man rotation? I know you mentioned it, but what are, I hate to ask odds on that, but given that you mentioned it, do you think that that's a possibility?
Honestly, I don't think it's something that we start with, but it is something that came up in conversations. So there would be a possibility if that's something that would create the innings that we want and give guys rest. It's nothing that we said, hey, we're going to go to a 6-man on this date. That hasn't happened. But I will say it's something that came up as part of a conversation with a group of our pitching people in our front office.
Okay, and thank you for that. And then the second question is with the acquisition of Duvall. I suppose from the outside looking in, it appears you have two guys that play the same position in Coop and Aguilar, and inevitably one of them, I would suppose, at least at the start of the season, opening day, would be on the bench. How do you manage that? Is there any thought process there of perhaps putting Coop maybe back in the outfield, or are they simply put going to have to wait for playing time there?
We've actually talked to Coop about the possibility of playing some outfield. I think his best position is first base. Defensively, we think it's best for his health to be playing first. Last year, obviously, was a good scenario for the DH and first base for him and Aggie. With Adam, it changes things a little bit, but we still look at Coop as playing some outfield. And we do think all three of those guys, when you talk about Aggie, Coop, and Duvall, they're going to need days over 162. This is not the same 60-game sprint we're in. It's going to be a different type of season where you are going to have to load management some guys, pay attention to some matchups and things like that with those three and work through it, right? And usually it works itself out. Honestly, I don't look forward to that working. I don't want it to work itself out in the negative way. But we will work through it. I've had conversations about it, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay, next go to Daniel Alvarez.
Indiana, good to see you.
Venezuela.
Happy New Year, man.
Happy new season.
Yeah, happy new season year. I mean, I don't know. But there's something that you mention all the time during spring, and it's two specific words: healthy competition. And it's always important for this time of the year, and what you want to see from your veteran guys and your youngsters, and also that competition that Craig is mentioning on first base with Aggie and Coop, moving to second base with Jazz and Eason. So you talk a little bit about it, and now having much more depth in your roster than in previous years.
Yeah, I think obviously when you talk about young guys and veteran guys and guys that have been around long enough, that you trust them, that they know how to get themselves ready. So we'll be you're a little more patient with the older guy, knowing that they're going to rate themselves through the course of spring training. The younger guys, you're looking for probably a little more what you got, and to see what they're going to be all about. They're usually a little more fired up with the energy during spring training. So that'd be something that we'll be looking for, because we feel like there's a lot of guys that have things to prove. And as far as competition, I mean, Derek's talked about it from the beginning. And we talk about healthy competition, and you said that right, because you want guys knowing that, hey, there's guys coming. I got to go show what I can do. And you don't want it in a way that you're wanting one guy's looking for another guy to get hurt and it causes problems. You want it in a way that both guys want to show you what they can do, and then give us the problem of trying to figure out what to do with it. Right. So we do think that the competition is definitely healthy. You want those guys coming from down below to be knocking on the door. So the guy that's in Miami is like, I better play, because I know that dude down there can play. So that's the kind of competition that we're looking for.
Thank you, Donnie.
Andy Slater.
Hey, Donnie, good to see you on here. And thanks, as always, for being as honest as possible. You mentioned just a little bit ago that you're counting on Brian Anderson to get better. What exactly, anything specific that you're looking for from him?
For him, it's just continue to be consistent. We think there's more in there. And that's when I say, all your guys are going to ask to get better. But even though Brian's starting to prove, or he has proven that this is a guy that's going to play in the big leagues and probably going to play in the big leagues for a while, he's still got more ceiling left. He can get better. He's going to get stronger. He's going to get more physical. I think he's going to get more. He showed us last year at third base. This guy can really play third. We've tried to leave him alone over there and see what he could do. But we think there's just still more there. There's a consistency there that he's going to continue to grow and develop with maturity, that we think this guy's, is going to be a top third baseman in the game.
And lastly, how much input, or what was the process with Harold Ramirez getting DFA'd? How much input did you have into that?
We talk about all our players, and obviously what goes on in the off season. And obviously we're getting close to this, to the spring training part of it. There's a lot of front office things that you talk about, or a lot of things with players and talking about players, but those are decisions that your front office, and a lot of them are tough calls. And I think we're finding out this year with all the guys, I think that we've had the DFA, I think they've all basically been picked up or been a trade. Right. So we're starting to have to, our roster's getting good enough that we're going to lose some good guys here and there. And Harold's one of those guys. He's just a casualty of us getting better and getting deeper.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Barry Jackson.
Hi, Don. There were basically a couple ways you could have gone in right field. You could have signed a veteran established starter, which you did with Duval. I guess the other option would have been a little of Cooper, but also sort of saying right field is going to be our kids. Sierra, Brinson, Monty Harrison, Jesus Sanchez. Was a decision made not to go in that direction, in part because you think that in particular Monte and Jesus need AAA at bats? And how difficult is that call going to be of your young outfield prospects? Obviously, those two, Blade on the way, Meisner, Burdick, giving them sufficient at-bats at the big league level, but also not sacrificing your attempt to win? How challenging is that?
Well, that it goes back to that healthy competition, right? And, Adam really that was a situation, there was really not a lot of talk about Adam until it got later. And all of a sudden that popped on the radar. There was nothing in the conversations that said, we don't like our young guys, we got to go a different direction. It was more that we're trying to put the best team we can together. And I know that, Kim could talk about that, but I know was her goal. And we've seen it with the work that our front office and Kim have been able to do in the bullpen. I think it's the same way with our position players. We look at it, that was a chance to put power into our lineup. A guy that's, start showing that he's seems like he's figuring it out more and more every year. And a guy that's going to help us put some runs on the board. And that's really as simple as that. We liked the guy we got and the power that he was going to bring.
And with Sanchez and Harrison, is there a thinking that, and obviously they'll have a chance to compete this spring, but is there a thinking that we'd like them to get AAA at bats, maybe if they're not going to start here?
Yeah, I think obviously you would love those guys to continue to get at bats if they're not going to be here. I think the worst thing for a young guy is to sit here and not play. And there's situations where that happens at times. It happened a little bit last year, and we use guys in different roles, but it's really tough to develop after a certain point. You can learn so much by watching games and being a part of it, but you got to keep playing. And I think with Monte and Sanji, two guys that we like and we love their talent and what we think they can be, but they're part of a big mix, right? When you start talking about Blade, you talk about Meisner, you talk about Peyton Burdick, and I mean, there's just it keeps going, right? And so there's going to be stiff competition for spots in the outfield.
Okay, we got time for a few more here. Christina again.
Yeah, Don, the last time I guess you spoke with us, the bullpen was still being constructed, and you had mentioned the guys could kind of be based on matchups late in the game. What sort of, I guess, maybe your game plan, or has that changed since the additions of guys like Floro, Bass, Curtis? Obviously Yimi comes back. What sort of thought process?
Yeah, this pin has quietly been just kind of keep putting quality guys into it. I think kind of sneakily almost. Anthony's a guy that pitched a lot of leverage last year, either the 9th or the 8th. So obviously he's a guy that's a candidate for the back end of the game. Yimi was really good back there and back into the game. Floro's stuff through we love what he does. He was not used in as much leverage in LA. Obviously they were stacked in a World Series winning team. But we think he's capable of being that kind of guy. Richard Blyer, another guy that could pitch late. We feel like almost every guy that we put into our pen can pitch late in the game. And I think that's where we'll be able to match up, keep guys strong, not always having to go to the same couple of guys at the end of the game. So, I mean, I look at it right now, it's a work in progress. And I remember talking to Anthony when we were talking about him, actually before he signed. And we talk about bullpens set their own roles in a sense. You go in with some idea how you want this thing to work out, and you think you're going to do this and that. But the way they pitch is really how they set their roles. And that's what it happens every year. But those guys I mentioned are guys that we think that can all pitch in the back end of the bullpen.
Sorry, I'll just follow up. Is it almost kind of like an open competition for a closer, or is it a front runner, or is that something you'll just see how it plays out?
I mean, we're going to see how it plays out, but the guys, like, you look at Anthony Bass, who's pitching the 9th and the 8th primarily for Toronto last year. Yimi basically pitched in all high leverage situations. As I get into Richard or Dylan Floro, then you start getting into possibly some matchups. Actually, Floro's good against right and left, so that makes him a candidate back there. You could run into a situation where it's Richard Blyer back there at the end. You get 3 out of 4 lefties or something coming in that inning, and our guys are beat down. But I would say if you look at it, like if you look at Dylan, Anthony, Yimmy, all three of those guys, set up as back end guys, and you would probably start in that area.
Okay, now to Steve.
Don, what
Was
would you,
that very good at not answering that? Sorry,
Don,
go ahead.
what would you see is the pros and cons of a six-man rotation?
Well, I think the pros obviously is the extra day. You get that extra day of rest. It probably, over the, I'm not the one that schedules all these guys all the way out, but it starts knocking starts off of guys. So it knocks innings off of guys. And the extra rest seems to be always good. I'd say the negative would be when you have that off day, now guys are pitching on a week and they don't like that at all. Guys don't like being on 7 days. And then if, you got guys that are pitching really well, another guy's struggling, do you skip him? And now he hadn't pitched in 10 days. So it does cause a little bit of problem from the standpoint of too many days in between, guys get a little bit out of rhythm.
Craig Minervini.
Thanks, Jason. Hi, Skipper. Sorry, I got a memo that we had to have a tie on here today, but I guess it was the wrong memo. Hey,
at least you brought some professionalism to this group of ours.
Yeah, which will end right now with my question.
Beach gear, Florida gear, you're a professional. Nice.
That's right, yeah. Hey, how much more confident, Skipper, are you coming off of the playoffs last year, but, where the club obviously took a big step, but also countered with that you got to do it through what at least is scheduled to be a full season coming up in 21?
Well, I'm confident in our guys. I will say that. And the people that were around last spring, I was pretty confident, in the first spring training about the way our guys looked, the type of pitching we had. Nobody really gave us an opportunity at that point. When things switched to the 60, then we just tried to turn it up a notch and make it a sprint. But even over 162, I know I'm going to be confident going in. And I feel like we're a club that, again, I'm going to go back to pitching. Every time we put a starter out there, you feel like you're going to have a guy that keeps you in the game. And what we've done in the bullpen, we feel like these guys are going to be able to hold on to games. We think they're going to be able to keep us in games that we're a couple runs back. You kind of hold the game right there, give your offense a chance to win some of those games. And what I really look at, this is a black and blue division. This is going to be grind. I talk about grinding out all the time. Every team in this division is going to give everybody trouble. You can go top to bottom. If people are picking us fifth, nobody's looking for us to come to town and thinking, oh, the Marlins are coming, because they know they may see Sandy, Pablo, Sixto, Eliezer, whoever. So it's going to be a dogfight, and I think that benefits us. I really do. I think we got to be the club that takes advantage of everything, doesn't take anything for granted, win every game we can win, and let this division beat each other up.
So you're saying because other teams are so good that they're going to have to scrap. You don't see somebody running away with a lot of wins because they're going to have to battle every night with all these games, 18, 19 against each opponent.
Well, there's always a chance somebody runs, but it just looks like, I'm seeing Braves, somebody's picking the Braves to win 82 games. I'm like, I don't see them going away, right? I don't see Freeman, and they got Zoo back over there. Acuna is like, it just doesn't stop, right? So I don't know how they got so much worse in the offseason with their signs either. So, and I know the Mets are doing a lot. The Nationals are doing a lot. The Phillies are not going to go away. They're doing stuff. So I don't see anybody running, but I guess it could happen. But it's going to be tough to get through this division and think you're just going to go run away.
Okay, we're going to close with Jeremy, and then Kim's going to join us.
Hey, Donnie. The one position that seems to be the most intriguing or up in the air competition after you mentioned Alfaro behind the plate is second base. And the one guy that sort of hasn't been brought up in this conversation has been John Birdie. So my question was, do you expect Birdie to compete for that everyday role at second base, or is that sort of more up to Jazz and Isan, and what do you expect from them?
I think Bert could definitely be an everyday guy. I think we look at Bert as more of all over the field to give guys breaks. To type player that where he gets his at bats that way, and that's a true value in that. I think Jazz and Isan, that'd be interesting there at second, but we kind of got to see where that one goes. Jazz obviously is a guy that is exciting and fun to watch, and Isan, a guy that had a rough year last year medically and some things off the field. So it's going to be up in the air. It's going to be interesting. It's again back to that competition thing we talk about, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Okay. Thanks, Skipper.
All right, y'all. I guess I won't see you, but talk to you tomorrow or the next day.
Thank you, Don.
All right, see you guys.
Everyone, how are you?
Okay, we got a full roster, Kim. We'll go ahead, Jordan, if you want to start us off from the Herald.
Thanks, Jason. Hey, Kim, great to see you again. 2 questions to start off. First, can you just break down the latest wave of moves? Obviously, getting Duvall and then trading for Floro and Curtis, and then just the roster crunch to make everything fit inside that 40-man.
Sure. In terms of Duvall, saw him as an opportunity to add another quality veteran to our mix. Adam is somebody who has had a lot of success in the past, and hoping that he can continue that success here as well. Again, adds another offensive presence in our lineup, and is a very good defensive player as well. In terms of Floro and Curtis, 2 real good arms to add to our mix. Floro, I think one of the really intriguing things about him was that he's obviously played for the Dodgers and won a championship with them, and has experienced postseason play for the last several years of his career. And he's been pretty high on our list all off season long, and we were just lucky enough to grab him when the timing was right. And then Curtis, Curtis, very good arm, had some nice success last year, and just brought him in to compete for a place in our pen.
And then just as a quick second question, you had 3 months now getting settled in, putting the roster together, understanding what you have at your disposal. Now that everything's happening in spring training and the first workouts tomorrow, from a personal standpoint, what's your excitement level like finally getting to see it all unfold?
I feel like a kid on Christmas. This is my Christmas morning. So we've talked about these guys quite a bit, every day for the last 3 months. And finally I get to see them live, and you get to see them out on that field, how they react to certain situations, how they compete, what their demeanor is, and you really just get to see, you get to see them, in their element. So I'm just excited, incredibly excited to meet all of them in person, and to see what they bring to the table live.
Okay, we'll go to Christina.
Yeah, hi, Kim. Playing off of that a bit, there might be some overlap, but I think 23 of the top 30 prospects from MLB Pipeline will be a big league camp this spring. I was curious what you would like to see from them with this opportunity.
From all of our guys, really. But yeah, sure. The prospects, I'd love to see consistent effort. Love to see what their tools are, what they bring to the table, again, how they react in certain situations. And, I do want them to relax and be themselves, and hopefully, all of that will shine through. I'm sure it will. But again, to just see them in live games is going to be, it's going to be great for me personally.
Okay, let's go to Will Manso.
Hi, Kim. It's good to see you. I'm curious about, as an offseason progresses, you talked about the 3 months, you look around baseball and it's all the big moves that tend to get the attention. This team spends money, this team spends money, this guy gets a big contract. As a general manager, as you build, how do you stick to your plan knowing that maybe you don't have that at your disposal where you can go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to outspend this team, but I can find the players that I need for this roster?
I think we went about it in a very systematic way. I depended quite a bit on the staff, and they've been great. But I think, look, I think you have a plan going in, and it didn't seem that hard to stick to. I mean, I think, we let the market evolve a bit, and, we're ready to make deals when those opportunities popped up for us. So I did think that there was some patience that was involved. But I think ultimately we really, that's one thing that I thought was great about this off season, in terms of, our targets and who those guys were on our pref list. We were able to, acquire a decent number of them. So I thought it was a great off season for us. And yeah, you're right. Other moves that are bigger, get a lot of the press, but I'm pretty pleased with where we are and what we were able to accomplish this offseason.
Okay, Ruthie?
Hi, Kim. Good to see you. Just kind of a transitional question for you. What's the adjustment been like, and how has the pandemic made things more challenging? I mean, it's starting a new job like this is probably not the easiest thing to do.
So it hasn't been, but I will say, just in general, the job's been great. Like I mentioned earlier, I think it's like riding a bicycle. You just hop back on and you're back in the seat riding again, and it's it just all comes back to you, and you realize you're doing just what you've always done. So on that level, it's been great. Again, I mentioned the staff; they've been great, and getting to know all of them has been very helpful to me in terms of starting this job of this magnitude during COVID. It's definitely difficult, particularly when I didn't go through it from a team, on a team level, from a team perspective last year. So I've really had to rely hard on staff, that have gone through it. But look, it's going to take diligence, and we have to be vigilant in all of our efforts and everything that we do, to try and protect ourselves, protect our colleagues, our teammates, and that's just at the end of the day, that's just what it is. But I think we're okay. I think we've learned a lot from last year. And hopefully, we can just, again, be safe.
Kelly Sacco.
Hi, Kim.
Hey, Kelly.
You mentioned, how are you? You mentioned finally getting to meet these guys in person. I'm curious, how are you going to operate as your first time in spring training as a GM? Are you going to be trying to be on the field a lot, chatting with guys, or are you taking more of a hands-off approach?
I think I'll be out on the field when it's the right timing. I think these guys have to get settled in. Some of them didn't even play last year. They played to a certain extent, but not, obviously like we would have wanted them. So, I want to make sure that my presence out there doesn't distract in any way. And so I'm going to be really prudent about what I do and how I do it and when I get out there. But for sure, I've got to be out there, seeing these guys and seeing what they look like. So I'm excited. Hopefully they are. I'm sure they are. I mean, again, some of them weren't able to play last year. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun for all of us.
Josh Moser.
Hi, Kim. Nice to meet you. I'm Josh. I'm new in town with Channel 7. Just as we get started, for you specifically in your role, how do you want Don to manage this team, keeping in mind the balance between, really winning games and also seeing a lot of these young guys with an emphasis on development, as we keep hearing the word progress going into the season?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm not sure there was anybody that managed a team better than Don last year. Obviously, he got manager of the year. So I think, and I worked with Donnie in LA, and I think, one of the things that I've noticed about Don, and it's, it's hard not to notice, but, I do really feel like he is very positive with the young guys. And, I think that, he gets the big picture. So I'm not really concerned about that aspect of it, especially as he was able to fold in playing time for the guys last year, for the younger players, as well as, get to the playoffs. So, I'm pretty optimistic about what he brings to the table.
Okay, we'll go to Craig Mish.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
Craig, what's going on?
Oh, not much. Sitting in my car. I have a baseball question. All right, so let's start off with your decision, if you don't mind, on designating Harold and what the other outfielders on the team that you think have that he did not, and the decision to part with him, at least for the time being, on the DFA.
What was the second part, Craig?
Just the decision to part with him. I mean, some players clear waivers, I suppose he could, but it's designated for assignment. Why designate Harold as opposed to some of the other outfielders or anyone else?
Sure. I think all these decisions are difficult. I think, us bringing in a guy like Duvall, it was just going to be a matter of, a position player, having to leave the roster, us having to get him. And, right now I've got our staff out there calling clubs, trying to trade Harold. So hopefully he lands with another big league club. In terms of Harold, I think when you just weigh, all these different factors out in terms of how much playing time, each of them was going to be able to get, I think it just made sense that it was Harold.
Two more, if I could, or I could put my hand down and come back.
Yeah. Well, how about one follow-up, Craig, so we can get to everybody here? Thank you.
Sorry about that. Kim, had you known the designated hitter would not be universal, would your plans have been different from the beginning of the offseason in terms of roster management and acquisition? Thanks.
I think we had to be flexible. I think we had to be, guarded. But look, I think, in terms of the DH, obviously we wish we had the DH, and that would make our lineup even better than, what we currently think it is. As it's constructed right now, we do still think that there are at-bats, enough at-bats for everyone. And, again, in terms of the playing time for everyone, I think this is a great way, and it gives Donnie a lot of options and different scenarios to keep our guys fresh. I think that's one thing that we've got going for us, and we're going to have a pretty nice team as well, pretty nice lineup as well when we head into those American League cities.
Next, we'll go to Steve Wine, AP.
Hi, Kim. Nice to see you again.
Hey there.
A couple of questions, if I may. You had obviously some sense of the players and the prospects here when you took the job. In getting to know this roster, what has been the biggest surprise to you about its content over the past 3 months?
I think I knew we had a deep farm system. I think my appreciation for just how deep has grown as I've progressed through the job, week after week. I think the starting pitching is, really interesting, as well as our outfield situation. So, just a greater appreciation for what we've got here.
And what are your feelings about a 6-man rotation, both in the abstract, just the concept of it, and specifically to this situation here?
Sure. I think, the 6-man rotation has been talked about at various points, I guess over my career. I will tell you that I think for this particular club, I think it's, and almost any club, it's going to be difficult because I'm not sure that we necessarily have the information that you would want in order to go in, head first on it. I think, it's great in concept, but you're not necessarily sure how guys are going to react to it when they've been on, in a 5-man rotation their entire professional careers. So, I think that's our situation. We've talked about it in concept, but I think when you talk about it, on a practical level as well, particularly, in the National League, when you need guys off the bench, you don't necessarily want to take away from that. And so I think, you need to try and have as many pitchers as you can, but, you don't necessarily want to take away from the bullpen, and you don't necessarily want to take away from the bench. So, for us, I think we're most likely going to be on that 5-man path.
Okay, Andy Slater.
Hi, Kim. You said you like the way the off season's gone so far. Is there a certain point that you have in your mind where you'll be able to really judge how it went?
Yeah, probably on September 30th.
October 2nd this year.
October 2nd, thank you.
Why not November?
Yeah, or November. Listen, I think the evaluation of your off season it's continuous. I think it happens every day. And hopefully, one of the things that I've always felt like, and I'm sure many other executives, is you just hope you're healthy. You can stay as healthy as you can so that whether your off season moves, were as good as you hope they were, or as you thought they were. And medical and health is always going to be of the utmost importance. When you put together that roster, but I think you have to evaluate your club on a daily basis. I think, there are times when you're going to have to bring people in to help you evaluate your club. You bring in scouts, you'll bring in other staff, just because you've been watching it so closely. But it's an everyday process. And I like your thinking on the November part.
One more quick one. Are you the type of GM, or will you be the type of GM that listens to noise about what fans say, what media says, and do you have a secret Twitter account?
I'm not answering the second question. And, the answer to the first question is, I think you have to take it in stride. I think I actually have a friend who said, he's a former GM, and at the time he said this, he was a GM, and he told someone in the media, he goes, "I can't read your stuff. Otherwise, I'd never be, I'd be paralyzed, and just be, going with emotion all the time." So, I think there has to be a balance that is struck. I think that I will read articles from time to time, but I can't let myself be swayed by, I think, fans are great. I love them. I love, sometimes they're outrageous and I love that. And sometimes, and they make a lot of sense, others, but I think you have to really just take it all in. And, I really try not to get emotional about decisions. And, I think reading too much can really make you lean too much, one way or another. So I really just try and be objective about, what I'm looking at, and how much media and how much, of fan, banter I let affect me.
Thanks. And by the way, the no to not denying the secret Twitter account is kind of a yes in our world.
Really?
Craig Minervini.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. Is spring training even more important for you, this year? Because a lot of the things you've been relying on staff, you've done all your research, but now you see it in person. And how long do you think into the season will it take a chunk of games this happens even for a manager the first year, to kind of get a grasp of what you know and what you have. And is that like a overwhelming kind of or not?
So I don't think it's going to be overwhelming, but I think you're right in that it's a lot of information. What you see on paper, a lot of times it's just not what it looks like in real life. And, even when you hear scouts or coaches describe players to you and, they think they're differentiating, but, or they think they're saying the same thing, but they're not. And you get out there and you look with your own eyes and you see there's like a vast difference in two players. So, I think, for me, I definitely need to see these guys, I need to lay eyes on them. And it's great information. It's a lot of information, but it's not overwhelming. I think it's just, it's just more to the mix. But yeah, I mean, I'm just really looking forward to it.
Okay, Nick Garrido, and then to Tom D'Angelo after that.
Hey, Kim, just one question for you. In terms of obviously last year with the expanded playoffs, this year, no expanded playoffs, it's kind of a different feel, a lot less teams getting in. So it's kind of hard to say, it would be a disappointment for you guys not to make the playoffs this year. But what are your expectations for the year? Because you can't quite simply say, hey, we made the playoffs last year, we expect to get in this year. It's just because of the different feel for how many teams are getting in this year.
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely a different landscape, on a lot of different fronts. Look, my expectations are that every day we come to the ballpark, we're going to compete and we're going to be competitive in, what I think is an extremely, and many industry experts and others, think is an extremely difficult division. Like I said, I think we've got a good mix of veterans and young players, and I look for the veterans to stabilize us. And I look for the young players, to come in and really try and figure out how they can be consistent on an everyday basis. And, when that happens, that's progress and that's improvement. And that's what we need from these young guys, but again, I'm really excited to see, guys like Monte Harrison, Sierra, Isan Diaz, Jazz Chisholm, Lewin Diaz, all these guys that I've been hearing about all off season. Just can't wait to get out there and see him.
Thank you.
Okay, Tom.
Yes. Hey, Kim. Nice to meet you. Kim, even since you took over, we've had so many women breaking down barriers, and the Super Bowl official and Becky Hammond coached an NBA game, and I guess being vice president of the United States is pretty important too. So, what and you've been in it for so long, but what does it mean to you to be one of these trailblazers, and what does this mean? What does this say to little girls who are looking to get into sports at any level?
Well, for me, it means progress. I think, in a lot of ways, that aspect of it, that aspect of me getting this job has been just so meaningful, and looking at the other events that have taken place, it's profound, and I think it's really opened a lot of eyes. And and I think, look, I think women are taking notice, but I think a lot of men are taking notice, and I'm not sure the question should be why. It should just be why not. What would be those difficulties? There really are none. And so it's been huge for many young women, for little girls, for teenagers, for all of them to see. I actually have a friend who has an 8-year-old daughter, and I haven't seen her in a while, but they always show her my picture and throughout the years, etc. And she came in, she was doing homework the other day, and she came in running to her parents, to my friends, and said, "Look, Miss Kim is in my homework book." And I guess they had given out a pamphlet. These kids were supposed to do math. I think it was math. And, apparently I was in the book, the pamphlet that they had passed out at school. And so, that's when you realize, just what a big impact it's been, that I've been able to have, and it's not really, again, it's not really about me. I think it's about, all the women that came before me and all the women that hopefully come behind. But it really has had a profound effect on me as well as others, I think.
If I could, have you followed when you see like a Sarah Fuller at Vanderbilt or the Super Bowl with the official and Becky Hammond? What do you think, when you see see them on TV or read about it, what comes to your mind?
Usually it's a big smile comes to my face first. And then, probably the next thought is, hell yes, and a little fist pump there. I think, look, I think we all root each other on. And, I've reached out to, a couple of people when they've gotten jobs, in the last few months. And, just, again, it's great for me to think that I had a part in some of this. And it's humbling, quite honestly.
Okay, we'll let Hannah get one in from the West Coast, or from New York, I'm sorry.
I'm not from, I wish I was on the West Coast. It's
Yeah,
probably
you're freezing.
it's probably a lot warmer. Hi, Kim. I'm in New York. I'm not on the West Coast. I'm in freezing cold Brooklyn. I'm curious because now you are presumably in some sort of bubble down there in Florida of having gone through intake protocols and all of that, and looking at a really long season of adhering to those really strict protocols. If you've given any consideration to sort of what that will do to the team, both the team on the field and your staff in the front office, in terms of morale and how you can help people. I'm just curious because we talked to guys who went through a 60-game season of these really strict protocols last year, and now we're looking at a 162-game season plus spring training and hopefully the postseason. And I'm curious what executives around the league are thinking about in terms of helping guys stay sane, stay connected to the outside world, and to sort of also for yourself what that looks like.
Yeah, look, I think we're the lucky sport to have 162 games, but with that obviously comes a lot of thoughtfulness and a lot of dedication and commitment. And I think, in order to play this game, you have to be absolutely committed. And, I think that's what these guys are, especially this team, with them having gone through what they went through last year, with COVID and having it affect, a good percentage of the team. I think people understand how it can decimate. And so I think that, and I also referred to the veterans in the mix. I think they will help the younger players, deal with this and really try and impress upon them the seriousness that we need to take this virus with and the protocols that are in place. And these players are going to hear about it, from everyone. I've asked all of the coaches, and not just the big league coaches, but the minor league coaches that are here in big league camp. This has to be a team effort. And I think, in terms of the players keeping their sanity, we're not saying don't socialize. We're saying just socialize at a distance. We're saying, wear your masks. And I think the good thing for us in Florida is that we are able to be outside at this time. We've got it a little bit easier than other folks, who in April are going to be in, situations where, it's cold. So for us, we're a little bit more on the fortunate side, but I think having gone through it for a small but long period of time, I think that they've become they know what to expect. They know what to expect, and so again, for the younger guys who haven't necessarily gone through these protocols, I think that's where we're going to rely on the veterans quite a bit.
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious, like how you can balance communicating the gravity of the protocols with like balancing the mental toll, I imagine, of living under that pressure. I mean, it just sounds like a lot of pressure. It sounds like a lot of pressure. I mean, particularly for guys who have gone through those outbreaks and seen what it did, and it, you know, it still gets written about. I wonder if you sort of think about the mental pressure it puts on guys to sort of be going through that.
Yep, absolutely. We do feel the mental pressure. You know, I think the great thing is that, you know, we're not going through it alone, right? It's not like, you know, quarantining in New York City during those spring months, summer months, you know, around the holidays. It was obviously tough for guys, you know, but we are traveling together, you know, as a pseudo pod. So I think that, you know, and I think, you know, we're all experiencing it in a similar way. And it's not the same way. It's not the same for everyone, but in a similar way where I think, you know, we would definitely encourage, you know, people talking, you know, about how they're feeling. And I think that's, you know, where a lot of our, you know, mental skills professionals will come into play as well. You know, and just being able to talk about it, I think is going to be huge. But again, you know, that we are teammates. We've got each other to rely on, and you know, to help each other get through this.
Thanks, Kim.
Okay, I know we have to run to another meeting. So thank you, Kim. Thanks for the time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it. We'll be sending out details.